The City of Indianola Council meeting for October 21st, 2024. We would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Post road back on October 9th. Police said people were found unconscious in the roadway. One victim is
Okay, all right, well, Jackie, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Richardson?
I'm president. I'm president and I'm I think I'm president.
Here.
Here.
Shelby? Stones?
Present.
Armstrong?
Here.
Mayor Erickson?
Here. We'll move on to item number 4, which is the public comment section. If you would like to speak, you could come forward now. None, we will move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled? Seeing none, can I get a first and second motion on the approval of the consent agenda?
I'll move. Second.
And Ben, do you want to walk us through?
Sure. On the consent agenda this evening, we have liquor licenses renewals for Pete's Pizza and Mocho's. Payment application number 3 for Vanderpool for the Franklin Avenue project. Items E through K are all of the state code changes to our code to be in compliance with state code that worked on and brought forward to you last meeting. Is a final plat for Plat 8. Approval of urban revitalization designations. Item N is the payment application number 12 for Vanderpool. There is a change order in amount of $11.50, and that's for signage that better took the traveling public to the business owners in that area. Resolution item O is a payment application number 4. That one had a negative change order, and that was for the K Street project to Vanderpool Construction. Item P is a payment application number 3 in the amount of $50,273.57 with a change order that's negative for the West Clinton Culvert Replacement Project. There's a resolution approving the purchase of an ambulance for the fire department. That's actually only a portion of the overall ambulance cost. That is for the chassis. That's $90,000 that will hit this fiscal year, and there will be $285,000 when the full ambulance is built out in fiscal year 2027. There's an resolution authorizing intergovernmental agreement for mutual assistance with fire and EMS services, and a resolution approving salaries.
Any question? Seeing none, Jackie.
Call them and then they vote on their things.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot we were doing this. Got so used to the way we were doing it. So yeah, you guys can vote, I guess, online. Still looks different. Can't see who wants to speak. Yeah. I did the whole process. Try that again. Get a little bit quicker on this. Okay, so motion passes 6-0. Moving on to council reports. The first item that we have under A is receive and file the September 2024 treasurer's report. Can I get a first and second motion?
So moved.
Is there any questions for Mr. Shaw?
I noticed we've still got some negatives. Those, I think pretty much everything is what we talked about in the past. Just clarifying everything here. I think we talked about that, I think, before, Doug, is that all these negatives. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess on that, on the natives, on the Fund 340, do we have a plan for how we're gonna, that's been negative for I think a while.
We are working on a budget amendment at this time.
Hello, Roxanne, thank you.
Hi, everyone. We do have a budget amendment coming up, but since there is no cash for that right now, that's not necessarily included. So we need to figure out a source for funding.
So that's the Regions Bank building, and we were going to fund that with a GO bond or some other source of revenue. So once that gets figured out, that'll get positive.
Any other questions? I know it looks a little different because we have graphs
I like it though.
this time.
I like the graph.
I just wanted to point out that I checked before the meeting and the property taxes for fire and pool, we did receive those on, October 11th. And then I did add, or we did add this, budget check, function check. This follows the same format as the budget amendment form, which you'll see next meeting. So this will be on every treasurer memo now. And you'll be able to visually see each month if any of the categories are over. Because we're not supposed to go over, and we can get dinged by the auditor if we go over. So this is just a way for you to see that, visibly see it throughout the year. So, any other questions?
Thanks, Roxanne.
No problem.
Thank you. I really do appreciate all these graphs, so thank you.
No problem.
All right. We have receive and file the oh, I'm sorry, Jackie. Yes, go ahead and vote.
Have anything?
Popping up. It may not, because this is typically a voice vote though, so will they still do it on that?
Are you gonna vote in favor?
Yeah.
Mark it? Okay.
Popped up, all right. Thanks to those in the audience and watching, giving us some grace here. We're trying a new system. All right, well, motion passed 6-0. Now we will move on to item B. Can I get a first and second motion on receive and file the September 2024 EMS billing activity report? Is there any questions for Chief Gia? He doesn't have very many left, so can't let him off so many, so easy. I think you only
December's coming.
2 more, right? Couple more, so yeah, I think, come on, guys. In November, we're gonna make sure it's you though.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and vote. Okay, motion passed 6-0. Moving on, and council committee reports, we'll change things up. We'll start with Councilmember Armstrong. Go this way.
The reports.
You miss me?
Thank you.
Unfortunately, yes. So this morning at 10 o'clock, we had a league legislative policy committee meeting. Went over some of the priorities. The new league president ran the meeting and vice president. The point of it was, again, the priorities for different things that are going on. The league has 3 priorities that they feel we can get easy lifts on. Sidewalk draft language, I don't know if you remember that. We now have, because of some court cases, we have some liability on sidewalks, and so there's been language drafted already. They've got a sponsor in the legislature for that language. Looks to be a bipartisan issue and something that can be moved forward. Uniformity on public notices is another issue that I know, Jackie, sometimes you got different dates and 15, it's the 10th, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, they're trying to make that uniform. That draft language is also complete. Police officers is a little bit different. They had some of the folks from the league met with some of the folks at the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. They talked about some different opportunities and training, trying to figure out some different things that maybe could be done to help in some of the training and make it a little less onerous, I guess, maybe a way to put it. But the problem also is just finding and attracting qualified individuals that want to be police officers. You've noticed that sometimes when we put out ads for police officers, the numbers aren't very large. Property taxes are gonna be back on the schedule again, according to what, they are hearing at the, State House. Lost is also on their list. They seem to think that, the answer, really the question is, that we're not responsible for our dollars. Is some of the concern that they're getting back from some of the majority party legislators in the Senate. Iowans for Tax Relief are saying that local government spending is out of control. And so our property taxes are out of control, but they don't realize that assessments and values have increased greatly because of inflation and a number of other factors too. So it's gonna be an interesting session. What the league did was put out a survey. They surveyed league members. They surveyed the board and the legislative policy committee. What they found out of those, there were 24 people that they surveyed just within the policy group and everything. They got back about 90% of the surveys from everybody. What they're finding is that cities are delaying infrastructure, capital projects, hiring in some cases. Any incentives for new businesses coming in, a lot of cities are starting to look at dropping those kinds of incentives. And part of the problem too is with hiring of police departments that in the small rural areas that the county sheriffs are picking up a lot of people out of the local police departments there. In fact, Guthrie Center told me that they're losing 6 of their officers, and I think he had a force of 10. They're losing 6 to the county sheriff's office because of the changes in the retirement systems. It makes it more lucrative for the county sheriffs, and that's one of the things we need to be discussing as well. Bottom line of that, all of these things, insurance costs are increasing for everybody, and so we've got some real challenges ahead of us. But the issue is going to be that we've got a lot of unfunded mandates. The lobbyist that we've hired with Brown Winnick, Matt Brown, had mentioned a couple of things. He said, you got to remember that the state unfunded mandates are about $210 million to local governments, which means, for instance, that when they lower the commercial property tax rates, the cities can collect from 90 to 80%. That was supposed to be a backfill. There's been some other things that have not been funded by the state legislature. The rollback is supposed to have some additional revenues also to the cities. It's not happening. And so part of that is really, to be honest about it, is that they made some promises, but they haven't funded those, and it's made us more difficult and more reliant on the local property taxes that we currently have. So lost money, it's on the table. I made the comment to the group today that all of the local option sales taxes are voted on by our local residents. Be left that way and shouldn't be messed with. And that seemed to kind of hit a nerve with all the folks there as well, and something that we want to look at. Local Leaders Day this next year is March 4th, 2025. There's also the legislative toolkits available online now for clerks and anybody else that wants to look at that for any kind of help as well. I would also say that I would really like us to think about that first full week in January after the election to maybe have a meeting with whoever gets elected from our state representatives, both districts in Warren County, and maybe invite Marion County as well, because one of the districts goes into Marion County. But I'd really like to see us try to do something there. I'd be glad to organize that, but I need to have some consensus when we get to that point. So just some thoughts there, because there's some really big things that can go along here in the next 4 years.
Thank you. Moving on to the mayor's report. I know a few of us attended the inauguration of President Jay Byers at Simpson College. That was fun. He even played his guitar for us. So it's a great homecoming weekend as well here. We have a couple events coming up, the Wine Witches and Brews down on the square this Friday from 5 to 9 p.m. Followed by our costume party on the square Saturday 10 to 12. And then today, some city staff members as well as myself were at the state auditor's town hall meeting here in town and met with Rob Sands. We spoke a lot about the impacts of House File 718. That was good conversation, and that's all I have. Move on to public consideration. Under old business, we have a public hearing for 215 North Buxton. Can I get a first and second motion to open the public hearing? Regarding a rezoning application located at 215 North Buxton Street. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Vote on this, I would. You'll have to, Jackie, is there a vote for them to open? Okay, I was like, yours did pop up or it didn't see it? Maybe this isn't the most efficient system.
Phones, did yours? Are you? Yes.
Yes. All right. Okay, so we are now in the public hearing regarding a rezoning application for property located at 215 North Buxton. And Bill, would you like to start us off here?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, councilors. This is a request from Integra Investments LLC, owned and operated and represented by Ben Carpenter, who owns the company. And the applicant is requesting approval of a rezoning for a parcel locally known as 215 North Buxton Street. Here in Indianola, as you can see on the map, the property is zoned half R2 and half C3. And he is looking to rezone that to full C3 so he can operate his contractor's offices from that location. At the June 11th, 2024 P&Z meeting, the commission recommended approval of a code amendment to permit contractors' offices in the zoning district. So this was the natural next step, is to get that property fully zoned to C3. As you can see on the map as well, there's a lot of C3 that surrounds it. So there's nothing concerning about rezoning it to that particular zoning district. The applicant won't have much storage. It's just offices for his first electrical company. The property is 3,400 square feet in area. And notification to adjacent property owners was mailed on September 14th, 2024. I've not received any correspondence against the request. The applicant also did place the sign on the property by the required deadline, and that has not, we haven't gotten any correspondence regarding that either. So at this time, the rezoning request is in conformance with all our guidelines, and it was recommended approval at the P&Z meeting. Staff does recommend approval. Happy to take any questions. Also, the owner is in attendance.
Any questions?
Didn't have anything else to say.
Mr. Carpenter, is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Bill, thank you for explaining that so well and eloquently. I'm Ben Carpenter. I'm the owner of Integra Electrical, Integra Investments. We are excited about moving our company to 215 North Buxton with your help. Strong supporter of the Indianola Town Square, keeping our business right here. And with your help, we are excited about staying here. And we're huge supporters of taking small business, keeping it on the Indianola Town Square and growing it right here. We've been doing that since 2006. We're excited for a long and healthy and fruitful relationship with the city and the town square. Be happy to answer any questions.
When are you opening
When are we opening?
that building?
Well, Lord willing, here in the next couple of weeks, we'll get Inspector Tim over there to take a look at everything. And like I said, Lord willing, we've dotted our i's and crossed our t's.
Great,
Thank you very much.
huge improvement.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Very excited. Yep. There's been a lot of positive response coming back to me. So great.
Okay. Can I get a motion to exit the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
All right, and you should be able to vote. All right. I need a first and second motion on the first consideration of an ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Indianola, Iowa for change of zoning district boundaries for the R2 single family residential attached zoning district and C3 downtown mixed use zoning district to C3 downtown mixed use zoning district.
So moved. Second.
A lot to say, okay. Are there any other questions on that? All right, go ahead and vote. Motion passed 6-0. Move on to new business, and first item, I need a first and second motion on the resolution approving the preliminary plat for Kentucky Ridge Townhomes.
So moved. Second.
And Bill, I would assume it's you.
Yeah, thank you again, Mayor. I'll be talking about the next two agenda items collectively as they go hand in hand together. This is a request.
You got it? Okay. Yeah.
So this is a request from the Inception Group LLC represented by Eric Cannon with Snyder and Associates. And they're requesting approval of a site plan and a preliminary plat for a townhome development known as Kentucky Ridge Townhomes. The property is located south of East Kentucky Avenue and east and North Jefferson Way, and it contains about 3.5 or 3.7 acres in total. The area outlined in blue on the screen there, just south of Walmart. So recently, some time ago, the master plan for the planned unit development was approved as part of that rezoning process. So the next step is to submit a preliminary plan, a site plan. The final plat is under review currently, but this was ready to review, folks. So the current zoning again is planned unit development. It's surrounded by highway commercial district on the north and the south sides, and then PUD on the east and the west sides. The site plan identifies the creation. The site plan identifies the creation of 51 townhome units. And then an outlaw for future construction there. The max density is 14 units an acre, and they're providing somewhere in the low 13s for this development. 3 buildings will have 7 units and 5 buildings will have 6 units, and each unit will be roughly 28 by 28 with a 2-car attached garage. The applicant is proposing a pickleball court at the northwest corner of the site there by the access entrance. Access to the site will be provided off of East Kentucky Avenue there to the north, and then internal streets will provide access to each individual driveway. 102 parking spaces are required. The applicant is providing 204 in the form of off-street 2-car driveways and 2-car garages. And also providing 14 visitor spaces on either side of the development. So the site plan does meet all the parking requirements. A 5-foot sidewalk will be constructed on the south side of Kentucky Avenue, as well as sidewalks internal to the site to help facilitate that pedestrian access. The pedestrian sidewalk is also shown into the site from the public sidewalk. The site will be serviced with public utilities that exist in the immediate vicinity. They'll be extended as needed to provide service to each townhome unit. Stormwater detention will occur with an underground basin that's underneath the pickleball court. 25% of the project area is to be open space, and they're providing 45.4%. They're also providing a landscape buffer. The landscape plan here. A buffer on the south side of the site. All the landscaping, the open space that meets our requirement. Elevations were provided for review, and they're proposed to be constructed of fiber cement lap siding, fiber cement panels, accent panels, stone veneer, and asphalt shingles and fenestration or windows. Some elevations for you to take a look at. And the site plan is in general conformance with the zoning ordinance, site plan ordinance, and comprehensive plan. Staff does recommend approval of the preliminary plat and the site plan, subject to remaining staff comments. There's a few that we're finishing up. Planning Commission did recommend approval to you folks at their last PNC meeting as well. So happy to take any questions. Also, the developers and the engineer are in attendance tonight if you have questions for them.
Yeah. Oh, would the developer or engineer like to speak?
The council, Eric Keenan, 2727 Southwest Snyder Boulevard here on behalf of Snyder Associates. And we do also have representation from the ownership here. So Bill's done a great job covering everything. Happy to answer any questions you guys have.
I don't know if we have any questions, but I think Council Member Richardson maybe has a very positive note that made me and him both very happy. So we'll let him share that.
I talked privately with Lee about the fact that there are storm shelters. You did put storm shelters. It's a slab on grade building that you put storm shelters in the lower level of in the garage area. I'm very, very happy that you're doing that, especially for the density that you've got there. I think it's a great plan. Love to see that on any slab in Indianola, but we'll maybe get there someday. I want to thank you for doing that. So thank you very much.
I really appreciate that. Any other questions?
I got a question. Was there a traffic study done on Jefferson Way, where Kentucky butts into it?
Yes.
Yes, there was during the very initial phase of the project.
I'm missing something here.
Yes.
Yeah, we completed a traffic study in coordination with City Public Works, analyzed the entire project as well.
Did the traffic study state that there needed lights at that intersection or not?
Conditions weren't, it says current conditions weren't a stoplight at that location.
As far as a traffic signal, yes.
Is that a state, will the state have to put that in, or is that a city?
I think we have to put it in, it's our expense, but we need their approval, I believe.
And typically we do it in partnership with, and some funding does come from the state, but right now it would be our responsibility when the timing is right. It does warrant it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the highest priority on Iowa DOT's list or our list at this time, but it is warranted that it could move forward.
Just, adding in an additional 100 cars coming in and out of Kentucky during the day is gonna be.
Specifically, I think part of the issue is amplified and no result to, or no fault of these developers, but the entrance into Scooters Coffee is not working out for the community. We've got people lining up on the highway and lining up on the roads. And with Hillcrest closed, Kentucky's very busy right now, so it's, we're getting there. So, yes, but I agree.
If I can add, sorry. The traffic signal warrants were warranted based on the accident data, not on the traffic volume data. So METCD, the federal guidelines, has requirements based on various criteria: traffic volumes, accidents, geometry, various other criteria. It just met the criteria based on the number of accidents, based on average number of accidents, the existing conditions. It did not meet based on the traffic volume that's from the development or the existing traffic volumes. I just wanted to add that in.
But your point is well taken, that it will add to the volume of traffic out there. And when we went through the negotiations on the city's participation in the project, one of the things that we took upon ourselves was the responsibility for the installation of that light at the time that it fits into your budgets. And one of the things we were looking at is when K Street and Hillcrest projects are completed, how much funding is left over and how we might prioritize that. This being one of the priorities that you may consider in a future budget discussion.
Is there any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. So I know a pickleball court was something that I think we asked for.
It is something that was stated in the Parks Master Plan as a need within our community, and that amenity here to fit, considering the other parks in close location to this property.
And I guess a concern of mine is this kind of development is going to attract young families with children, and this area, or in this area of town, we are lacking parks, and the nearest park is going to require that they cross Jefferson. And it's problematic in my mind. And a pickleball court doesn't really provide anything for young children. We have, in my neighborhood, we have 2 developments that don't have anything for kids to do. and we see them playing in the street. It brings a lot of concern for me. This development is in a very busy area.
I think maybe you'll see a difference in, and maybe these are gonna be owner owned, right? You're gonna- Yes, so I think you'll see a different dynamic there, and I don't think we can require them to put in green space and park. It's very nice they're putting in the pickleball, but there is a park across the street. Well, yes, it's not a safe intersection, certainly not. I think it's important for us as we go through our budgeting to prioritize some of those areas.
I agree. And I do think that the sooner we can get that stoplight in, the better, because that'll provide a safer crossing.
It's also probably important to note that as we're looking at the Sixth Street sub-area plan and the anchor of a library and art space that tie into the trail network there, that also would be just across, again, another busy road with Iowa, but it would be in proximity to this area.
Thank you. Okay, we will go ahead and if there's no more questions, we'll take the vote on item number 1, which is the resolution approving the preliminary plat.
We have to close the public hearing.
This was, yes, no, we're just on number 1 under new
sorry.
business. That's okay.
I'm not the only one. Confused.
I know,
You know?
This one was supposed to simplify things, and actually I feel like we're maybe delaying things here more, so.
We'll get there.
Yes, and I think my Lisa needs to change the screen too.
My vote option went away because I requested to speak.
There we go, I've got it.
Okay. Motion passed 6-0. Item number 2, I need a first and second motion on a resolution approving site plan for Kentucky Ridge Townhomes.
So moved.
Any other discussion? All right, go ahead and vote. Motion passed 6-0. Very exciting. Item
Thank you
number
very much,
3.
folks.
Can I get a first and second motion on a resolution approving plat of survey for Mid-American Energy for parcel number 13000200220? I think I got all the zeros. Thank you. And Bill, Ben?
Thank you again, Mayor. This is a request from Mid-American Energy for property that's currently owned by Stephen and Jerry Henry, represented by Marty Dostalik, who's in attendance tonight with Civil Engineering Consultants. The applicant is requesting approval of a platted survey within a priority growth area within the 2-mile buffer of city limits. The area outline are red on the screen there. It's out Hillcrest where it changes near that intersection of the county highway, G36. The property contains 12.77 acres. And it's parcel D, the area that's identified on the top right portion of the screen. If laser pointing forward on LED TVs, so part of that 12.77 is right away, about 1.5 acres. Again, they're basically Mid-American is looking to secure some land for a future substation later on down the road. They don't have plans for anything currently, but their future plan shows something in about 8 to 10 years. Notices that go out to the neighbors within 200 feet of this because it was a priority growth area platted survey. I received one phone call from a lady who was just questioning what they were going to do with that land, and if we knew of a timeline. She's okay with the platted survey. And you guys are hearing this because it's in a priority growth area. That's why P&Z had to hear it as well. They did recommend approval of this platted survey to you folks. So staff does recommend approval of this platted survey for Mid-American Energy. We're happy to take any questions. Also, again, Marty Dostalik is in attendance if you have any questions for him as well.
Marty with?
Civil Engineering Consultants.
Okay. My only question is, we've had all kinds of issues getting Mid-American Energy to a lot of our different projects in a timely manner. Just might remind them that we're doing this in a fairly timely manner, and any help we can get in future projects, greatly appreciated. Especially when you put us back 4, 5, 6 weeks in the project, so.
I will pass that along.
Thank you very much.
Very thankful for the nice Iowa weather right now to keep us on track.
I even a little concerned, I mean, we have had lots brought to us before with, in a priority growth area where we have turned them down because it is in a priority growth area. So I'm a little torn because I voted no before in the past.
What is this in our comprehensive plan? What is this shown as? That was the reason for no before, was because it wasn't in the comprehensive plan. That wasn't what so what does it show in the comprehensive plan in regards to what this plot should be? Industrial, okay, so.
The substation fits with what the future
Yeah.
standards would.
I'd also like to state that the little square in the upper left part of the screen is an existing substation that's getting on in years, and for any future development to occur in this area, they'll probably need to upgrade that as well as expand for any future growth.
Again, remind them that, you know, we've done this very judiciously and would appreciate their help in future projects.
You don't have to be so nice in your delivery, though. Just remind them we were nice. Okay.
I understand your trepidation. I would say my understanding with industrial type areas and growth, like follow the power, follow the money. And so we don't have that, the money won't come. That makes sense. There's no power.
Well, is there any concern with IMU, you know, because IMU has to stop at a certain,
Probably not.
at a certain point. Because they sold off their rights at some time to not service that area.
I'm not sure what the service territory boundaries are in this area, how close IMU is to the MEC boundary.
In industrial, zone industrial, that does help
I would say, I think in the past when we voted no, it was because it was
in residential.
different use, yeah.
It was. Part of the reason they're kind of making an effort to get into some areas to acquire property before development occurs. As soon as it starts building, then the more neighbors you have, the more fights there are to have one of these built, which it's a necessary thing to have for the development.
Any other questions? Oh,
Thank you.
thank you very
Glad you
much.
took notes. Thank you.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Hey, Jackie, just as a point, when it's getting presented, when the vote's already given to us, then if I click anywhere, like to look at another screen or get
Oh, wait.
stuff, yeah,
Okay.
then I can't. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 4, I need a first and second motion on a resolution approving a site plan for 203 West Second Avenue.
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, and Bill. Bill tonight. You've been here about a month and a half now. It's good. Yeah, you
Yeah,
can,
this
you
is-
can run the whole meeting.
This is perfect. Thank you again, Mayor and Council. This is a request from Jay and Brenda Clark. They're represented by Matthew Palin of Creative Concepts Architecture. And they're requesting approval of a site plan for a commercial space for their business. Located on, at the corner of West Second Avenue and South Buxton Street. The lot's about 0.39 acres. It is already addressed as 203 West Second Avenue. It's already outlined in red on the screen there. The property is currently zoned C2 and it's C2 to the north and the south, plenary development to the east, and then R2 to the west. At the August 7th, 2024 meeting, for the Board of Adjustment, there was a variance request for some setbacks, and those setbacks are for the front yard and then for the rear yard. The side yards were fine. They were looking for a 25-foot variance on the front and a 10-foot variance on the backyard. And that's due to the limited space of the lot and it being a flag-shaped lot, and there's already a kind of a home there on the southeast area of that site plan. So the Board of Adjustment approved both variance requests, so the site plan is in conformance with those approved variances. So keep that in mind if you see a shallow setback on either side there. So this will be for a 2,000 square foot building to be used as a therapy location. The building will be about 40 by 50 and then 13 feet at its tallest point. So the site plan is in conformance with not only our regulations, but also what was approved by the Board of Adjustment. Access into the site will be provided off of Buxton, as DOT did not permit access off of Highway 92. 8 parking spaces are required, and they're providing those 8, including a handicap accessible space. 5-foot sidewalks already exist on both sides of the streets on Buxton and Highway 92, and they are providing, it's on the north side of the site, a pedestrian access from the site out to the public sidewalk. So they are providing that access. The site will be serviced with all public utilities which exist in the vicinity, and those will be extended as needed to provide service to this building. Stormwater detention will occur in the way southwest corner, kind of where the down. 20% of the project area is 3 open space, and they're providing 40%. They're also showing a landscape buffer on the west property line to provide additional screening between them and the single family residence there to the west. The plantings shown, they do meet our landscaping ordinance, so we're okay with that. They provided some elevations for review. Kind of a stucco, stone veneer and fenestration. So all those materials are in compliance with our ordinance. The site plan is in general conformance with our site plan ordinance, zoning ordinance, and comprehensive plan. Planning Commission recommended approval to you folks at their last P&Z meeting. Staff does recommend approval of the site plan for 203 West 2nd Avenue. There's a few comments that we're hammering out yet, so it's subject to remaining staff comments. I'm happy to take any questions. I don't believe anyone has.
I know Mr. Clark came and spoke twice here, and he had issues with our ordinances as far as the waste removal bin area and also the amount of greenery that needed. Did we come to an agreement, or is he going to follow our current ordinance?
I think there was some misunderstandings after he came. Ben and I sat down with him before Bill came on, and we walked through, and it was some misunderstandings between the architects and thinking they needed to plant new trees for some of the landscaping buffers, but they didn't. I think things really got moving from there after we walked through that, so that helped.
We're gonna have an exterior utility room that they can roll their cart or tote, the garbage tote into. So that meets the needs. If it does change use in the future, then they may need a full dumpster depending on what's in there, but that meets their needs currently. And the spirit and intent of the buffering is to prevent not only visual but sound between the commercial and the residential, and that's the plan they put forward. Thank you.
How many parking spaces are we requiring here? Bill? 8. It's nice to see something going on in that old lot where her walkhead is out of garage there for years. Nice to see.
Agreed.
Right, any other questions? No, go ahead and vote. Motion passed 6-0. We'll move on to item number 5. I need a first and second motion on a resolution approving the site plan for Quick Star at 2103 North Jefferson Way.
So moved. Second.
Bill, are we back to you?
Thank you again, Mayor. The applicant and owner in this case is Quick Trip Incorporated, represented by Nate Byamworth tonight, Casey Bonzer, who's in attendance. The applicant is requesting approval of a site plan for a Quick Star gasoline station and convenience store, associated pumps, a car wash, and those kinds of amenities. It's located in the new Emerald Bay development. They're at the intersection of East Trowbridge Avenue and North Jefferson Way. And this particular parcel contains just over 4 acres in area. The lot's not yet platted, but generally it's the area outlined in red on the screen there. The property is currently zoned PUD as part of the plan development that was approved some time ago. So overall, the Emerald Bay will be a mix of commercial and residential uses. This is the first site plan that we've seen. It's kind of the cornerstone of the development. So we've been working closely with Synergy, with Jesse Rognes, and then also with Quickstar, Quick Trip to get the site plan moving. The canopy itself would be 40 by 120 and include 10 double-sided pumps, or so 20 pumps total. The diesel canopy, the standard gas tank canopy on the north side of the site, and the diesel towards the southwest part of the site there. The car wash will be on the south side of the building. There will be 4 diesel pumps. The store and the car wash collectively will be about 11,000 square feet in area, and then underground storage tanks are there on the western part of the site. Access into the site will be off of Trail Ridge Avenue. There'll be 3 access points. One will be strictly for gasoline trucks to come in and refill the storage tanks. The other 2 will be for standard vehicular traffic. 50 parking spaces are required, and they're providing about 77, including 3 accessible spaces, and then an additional 24 spaces are provided with the pumps themselves. A 5-foot sidewalk will be constructed on the west side of North Jefferson Street, or Jefferson Way. That will be constructed with this development. And then 10-foot trail will be installed on the north side of the site, on the south side of Trail Ridge, and that's to be installed with the plat improvements. They're showing a 5-foot pedestrian walkway off of North Jefferson Way into the site from the east there. The site will be serviced with all public utilities. Those will be extended and installed as they needed to be to provide service to the facility. Stormwater detention will be towards the center of the overall Emerald Bay development. So this particular site won't have its own detention area, but rather a regional basin towards the center of the Emerald Bay area. 20% of the project area is to be open space, and they're providing 45.4%. They're also showing a landscape buffer. I must not have included it. The buffer is on the west side of the property between this building and what will future be a residential area. So the landscape plan does meet our ordinances. And then here are the elevations that they've provided for review. It also matches and meets our ordinance requirements. So it's a lot of brick and fenestration, and I can't remember the roof material. There's still some comments that we're working out, but it's pretty close to being fully approved. So staff does recommend approval of the site plan for Quickstar, subject to remaining staff comments. Planning Commission recommended approval to you folks at their last P&Z meeting. Also, Casey Bondry with Quick Trip is in attendance to answer any questions that you guys might have. So happy to take any questions.
All right, well, easy enough. We'll open up the voting on that. Motion passed 6-0. Moving on to other business under City Manager's report. Ben Reeves. Questions before we go on to item number 1, Ben. I had a couple questions. You were gonna have staff do updates. Would you like to do those after the Wonder on Buxton project?
Whatever you prefer, man.
We'll go ahead and we'll do number 1. So discussion and possible action regarding the trail crossing on East Hillcrest Avenue. Ben gets, I'll recap, in the design of Hillcrest, when that was designed and approved in 2021, there was a median that was added at the trail crossing. This median was added due to 100,000 crossers each year. As we continue to loop that more together, it's going to continue to have increased traffic. So from a safety perspective, the engineers recommended, oh, Ben, wow. Is that you? Many things on his screen. Recommended this, and that was put in. And then I heard from Adam Hill with Farm Bureau, and they have some concerns regarding particular combines could get through there. So we directed Ben to look at some options in regards to making some sloped curbs or removing the median altogether. I'll let you take it over.
Absolutely. So Mayor and Council, the Mayor just explained that very well with regard to that trail crossing. Now, it's important to note that trails are extremely important in our area and very important to the future vision of our Sixth Street sub-area plan. Our long-term desire, of course, is to see our trails connect better to the square, to Simpson College, and then out to Martinsdale, creating a loop within our greater Warren area. And so making sure that our pedestrians, bikers, and whatnot are protected is very important, and that was a consideration this project did go forward. And so this island was put in to add to the safety of our those who are using the Somerset Trail. We're estimating that somewhere between 80 and 100,000 crossings take place each year at that intersection. With that, we have 3 options that the council could consider in this area. We do recognize that the agricultural community is impacted by this island. We have looked at other options of how this could be altered and changed so that it could be useful to the agricultural community as well. Currently, tractors can go down this area, can bump up onto the curb. Their tires are large enough and that they could go up in this area, but with some of the signage, it does make it tight in that area. There are areas around this location as well to get out to the farming area. So basically there are 3 options, options X, Y, and Z. The first was a rollback curb to make it so it's a little bit easier to pop up onto that without necessarily hitting the 4-inch curb. That option basically would grind all the median curbs and keep the trail truncated with the domes running between the medians, replacing the concrete forming inside of the medians as well as there's too much concrete to grind down, removing the existing concrete and soil that would be displaced with concrete. And the cost of that is $15,800 plus mobilization of $11,750 or a total cost of $27,550 if we were to add the rollback curb or low back curb option to this.
And to add to that, I'm sorry, just to add to this point, I did speak with Adam Hill and he did say that the rollback curb would be sufficient for them. So wanted to share that small point that was shared.
If they do go slow enough, the high back curb should actually be able to traverse on a normal tractor as well. You should be able to pop up, you just don't want to hit it quite as hard. And that's not necessarily a bad thing for the agricultural community to come up to that island, slow down a little bit, and then pop up on top of it. It's the option Z were considered by the council. Option Y is to replace, basically remove the entire pedestrian island there and just take it out completely and replace it with pavement in that area. It would require some curb changes as well. And so that would be a cost of $24,412 plus the mobilization that was listed earlier, $11,750, or a total cost of $36,162. Or option Z, of course, is to do nothing. It does support the trails, the pedestrians, the bikers, the growth of the city, our vision and economic development plans. And if the farmers could go very slowly to that and mount the median, it would be traversable. We can look at changing some of the signage to put in different the name just escaped me. I can't remember what they call them. Where you can roll over them and knock.
Oh, the knockover bollards.
Knockover bollards, but basically it's something that would be right on the edge of the curbing right there, and then you could hit them, they would knock over and then they would pop back up.
Even after a combine drove over?
Yes. And that's another option that would be something that our crews could put in after the overall project is completed. Very minimal. And it's important to note that we did spend a considerable amount of money there to take the trail, to realign it so it's perpendicular to the highway so that it did enhance the safety in that area as well. Miss anything from my engineering and
Just to be clear, the lane width is standard width. I mean, so not every tractor is gonna have to roll up on this curve. If you can roll down a two-lane highway and stay on in your lane, you can go through here without any problem whatsoever. For large vehicles or the extra wheels, that's gonna be a little wider than normal. This fits all the minimum requirements.
Dave, what's the standard width? I'm sorry.
Standard lane width is 12 feet. Most county paving is 11 foot on each side. So the county highway is actually only 11 foot wide each lane. The difference being the gravel shoulder, they can traverse down that little wider path.
Do you have any concern with option X, if they're popping up on the curb with the grass, that we could see damage there? I mean, I think we all saw the video of a combine, popping some curbs in a wet season that could ruin the grass and the easement there. So I don't know, probably a cheaper option than all of these, but I didn't know if that was.
I think we would probably lean towards a paved median so that it can support that tractor wheel.
But do you wanna start with giving some direction here?
I mean, I guess my concern would be doing nothing. What's the longevity before we start to see damage from these tractors and things?
Honestly, tractor wheel loads are less than, they have to drive in mud, so the wheel loads on a tractor are actually less than some vehicles. Because of what they're built for and made for, so I don't see this median crumbling in a short period of time.
Some other councils have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about that.
Well, it depends. How long do you wanna serve,
Nothing like passing the
Ron?
buck, right?
Doing nothing, like, the farmers I heard from are not very happy with the fact that the wear and tear on their tires over time jumping up.
I agree, and
They jump in the curb though. I mean, it's not like they're driving up and down the road every day.
probably on their way to the dealership. I mean, when they're taking it to get serviced. Once a year,
No,
twice a year.
they're going from field to field.
Well, or if you're going field to field, but I know several farmers who said due to construction and our infrastructure, they're taking different paths this year. They're not coming like 92. They said, we'll adjust for this season. The curb, yes, or the median, I get that concern and speaking, and I'll be completely honest, this has nothing to do with our streets department, but I'm more worried about a snowplow. Even though I know we've been assured, but we take out mailboxes, so it does concern me if snow gets piled up on there and then they don't see it, but I think that might be another council's problem too, so we'll hope it doesn't.
I have no issue with no moving around that island. Always been plowed by other cities, ones on major roads for decades and decades. Signs get knocked down, you replace the sign. It happens. As far as plowing around the island, I have no issue with it or no concerns with it whatsoever.
Are we gonna have to have street crews out there clearing that as well?
We
Like in
will-
the middle?
Of cleaning the island.
Yeah,
We'll clean
because
the
it's a
island.
walkway, so.
The Parks Department will clean the trail.
Parks Department will just clean the center of the trail. We will plow up to and come back into the lane. There'll be a little bit of a triangle of snow there. We
Does
won't
Parks
push
use
snow
a
up
trail
onto it.
on that? Okay. Is there any other-
Or it depends on how deep it is. I shouldn't be talking
Yeah.
about it, but.
We haven't heard anything from you tonight, Councilmember Ray. What would you like?
So like I'm just trying to follow along here and seems like we're maybe finding a problem before there is one, which is generally good, but we've spent a lot of money on engineering to make the bike trails crossing safer. We spent a lot of money on engineering to redo this whole road because it is a major growth corridor for us. And the engineers are telling us that everything should work. The one caveat being oversized equipment might have to slow down. Is there anything wrong with just seeing how the 1 year goes and then deciding if we have a problem? I mean, it is a growth corridor with all due respect to the farmers. It's probably not gonna be the greatest heavy use access point as we continue to grow and build out. It's gonna become more and more challenging regardless, right? But we're engineering and designing for that. Everyone's telling us it works, it's fine. We don't always, at some point, we should maybe just test the engineering and see if it's fine. Instead of spending all the dollars when we have how many other projects that we're trying to pay for and fund for and budget for right now. I know Richardson loves playing for change orders, but like I'd say save $30,000 to $40,000 when you can. And listen, it doesn't go well, okay, then let's fix it. But like right now, at what point do you trust the people you pay a lot of money to design stuff that it's actually gonna work?
I think that's an excellent idea, and maybe it's something that we address next August or July, see how winter goes. Cause everybody is adjusting right now with Hillcrest flows. They're finding other ways, and sure, that is damaging in some other infrastructure we're having, and we'll have to prioritize those areas too. So, I mean, maybe it's worth looking at early summer, so if we do wanna do something, we have time to get it done before harvest season next year.
When they start to plant their anhydrous and different things. They're gonna be taking their tractors through there.
They've also learned, back to the mayor's point, they've learned another route that they can take as well if they need to. Here's the thing to keep in mind too, that, you know, we're in discussions about Willowcrest being extended and eventually going all the way to over to 143rd. And I heard there's some things about some development even further north than Willowcrest that would extend that over the bike trail and further on. And, you know, to Josh's point, he's right. I think that we're kind of maybe overthinking this a little bit, see how it goes, because that's gonna be a couple of years out, but again, it's gonna be an arterial option for other farms in that area too, so. I think, I do think the signs would be good the pop-up signs would be good, but other than that, let's see how it goes.
Ina?
I mean, I have concerns with it, but I do understand where Josh is coming from. As far as holding off, seeing how it actually is affected next year.
I mean, that would give us a planting season to be open and see really what happens. And if we start seeing the curbs are knocked off and cracking, and trust me, we all know I have unlimited time on my hands, so I'll go and check every day. Then we can address it and then plan to have it out for harvest season next year. Or make an adjustment.
Just pose a question.
Yeah.
Is Hillcrest a farm to market road? Is it the major road for our industrial park? Are any of the answers to that question a yes?
Yes, and again, the lane width is the standard width. I mean, there's times in Iowa where the governor lifts the embargo. But this is again, prioritize pedestrian safety. This is a farm to market road, and that's part of the reason, similar to our discussions on K Street, where the traffic comes from out of town and is coming into a developed area with pedestrians in urban areas. This is a traffic calming element that is supposed to be something that you see. It's heavily signed, as you can see. There's advanced signing. We're trying to call attention to this area where we have pedestrian crossings and vehicles, and it is a traffic calming element. A lot of people don't like traffic calming, but it has shown to improve the safety of that vehicular pedestrian intersection. So that's, you know, I totally appreciate that it is a farm to market road. I think that is traversable, not fun, you know, because you have to hop up on the curb, or some vehicles will have to hop up on the curb. But again, it is it's not an impasse. Most vehicles, most farm vehicles, most tractors will be able to traverse that without having to hop the curb.
And I think it's important to note that this was put in because there are safety concerns out there, and if we were to take it out and somebody did get hurt out there, we're working to enhance and increase the amount of cross traffic there. And there is a lot of industrial trucks. There is a lot of, fairly high speeds once that new road opens up, that we do have to be concerned for those pedestrians and bikers who are on that trail.
I just hate seeing that we say take a different route to people who are putting food on our tables. Go burn extra fuel that's already cost a bunch of money, go take a different route. I just hate when we say that.
Well, I don't think I was saying that.
No, not you. I'm just reading the slide.
I mean, it's an option. I think no
So-
one's telling them that they have to do it, but if they don't wanna roll curbs, they can certainly find a different route. And, we're trying to find a balance with, what'd you say, 100,000 bikes now across that, Mayor?
Yes, 100,000, 80 to 100,000 is the projected.
Hopefully, that's the number or more.
More,
And
hopefully.
we have to find balance for everybody and, again, I come back to the fact that we spend a ton of money on engineering. And if we were gonna constantly come back and pick it apart, then respectfully, why are we paying for engineers? I work in engineering all day long. I'm not an engineer. So generally, I need them to know their job so that I don't have to do it, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody. I'm saying maybe it is not gonna go good and we'll all point at Dave if it doesn't go good. I think Dave is comfortable in his profession to accept that, but like, I don't know, spent a lot of money to design this to balance the best of all the uses for everybody. And we've provided options for everybody. And like, I just, for one, try to save money, but see if it works. And if it doesn't, then I'll be the first one to say like, let's do something different. But we don't even know.
I'll be the first one to say it.
Yeah,
Just
that's
to you.
fine. Listen, I don't mind being wrong. Really, I learn a lot every time I'm wrong, but I would like to see if we can trust our engineering and trust our planning.
And I think we all support our farmers and appreciative of everything they do. Ron, Melissa?
I'm good for option Z.
And I think, you're, okay. I thought you were gonna say wait a year, okay. I should have known, 0. We should have known on 0. Melissa, I think if we do decide to give the direction that we wanna wait, let's set a time of when we wanna bring this back next year. And specifically then, I put that on my calendar.
Talk right after the snow's done snowing, somewhere between March and June, right?
Right. That's not wide at all. It'll be perfect. If it gets snow in May,
That's what I'm saying, like,
yeah.
I don't, and all due respect, I don't think snow is the issue. I don't, this is why we're gonna talk about it after the snowfall. I mean,
Well, we wanna see really kind of what happens to it, how it is affecting if farmers are beating it up, if our snow plows are beating it up, they're not going to, because Caleb has already told us they won't, and I know they're all great at what they do. We'll just reevaluate it and see, because I think we owe it to the farmers to at least have that conversation and, what we're doing tonight, hearing them out.
I think we need to reevaluate after planting.
When is planting season? Here's a city girl. It's in the spring, right?
Depends what the weather is, depends what the weather, when the good soil gets.
Depends on the rain temperature.
So we'll go May, June. We just squeezed in that. All right.
I would say one last thing, though. Comprehensively, we need to look at the major trail crossings over arterials in the community, because there's a lot of concern about the trail crossing at Euclid, at Iowa, at 9th Street. So I would strongly urge us down the road here as well to take a look at what we can do to signalize that or something to help those folks, because we just passed the second reading of a resolution today that talks about the minute the pedestrian is in that crosswalk or close to that crosswalk, we need to have people stop, and they don't. I'm just concerned, especially on those arterials, we're gonna have some issues. So just another point.
So we will reevaluate this in May and June next
Do
year.
you want it to be an automatic default to come back, or do you want it to come back if somebody sees there's an issue?
Automatic default.
Let's do an automatic default and then,
First meeting in June?
well, okay, so I got. What?
Auto default. I would have went with option X.
I think it should be automatic.
Care enough to talk about it.
That's fine.
We'll just go ahead and we'll just bring it back, because
I-
we've got a couple that wanna just bring it back automatically, and I think that's fine. It could be a really short conversation. I'm sure what we're gonna see is we had no problems. It looks brand new still and everybody's been safe, so. Item number 2 is discussion and possible action regarding bids for the Wonder on Buxton project.
So this was presented to the council in a previous meeting. This would be to replace those areas in blue. And bids were obtained to remove that. I did have a conversation today with the new facilities manager over at Warren County to make sure that he was in the loop on this, that he was supportive of it, and he is. And so those bids are before you for your consideration, and whether you'd like to see all of that torn out and back in without all of the hazards.
You're just talking about the individual squares tore out and replaced?
So that's the entire area of blue. So all of those inlays, all of those panels would be removed. It would be new sub-base put in to bring it up to the proper levels so that they match the curb, and there's no longer the issue out there is that the sidewalks were sinking before we even put them in, and so there is some trip hazards out there even before the inlays were put in. And this will bring it up to a quality sidewalk within those areas.
And is those bids that you sent us, is that for the, the complete, everything
Areas.
or just the certain areas?
The areas of blue.
Sorry, you probably said it and I missed it.
So it does not affect the intersections, the ADA areas. The area in yellow, we're holding off on until the city has, because we're looking at realigning the entryway into that parking area. And so that one would come at a future date when we look at that parking area where the Masonic Temple is. Green was already put in by the Des Moines Metro Opera, and they didn't participate that, so that's already existing concrete that's good.
How many are in those yellow squares? How many inlays are in there?
All of the
In the
inlays
yellow,
would be-
in the yellow area? There's
Is
a
there-
few, I'm just wondering if
there's
they're
a-
trip hazards.
It's 2 panels and the bids include removing the 2 panels.
Okay.
In the yellow.
Thank you.
The other map, Ben, again, real quick.
Which one?
The other map, yeah, just showing the other portion.
So on this, we'll just be taking out the panel sections then, correct? So we're not gonna even take out the balloon inserts? On this part?
We would remove
Me too.
we would remove 9 panels that have inserts in them on the west side of Buxton there between Ashland and Boston, and in the alleyway Boston there's 9 total panels between that area. The rest of the sidewalk is in good shape.
So in other words, these estimates or bids include the removal of every single panel that was put in, whether it's in blue or not.
We're talking about the inlays, like.
Every single panel that has an inlay in it would be removed.
Okay, thank you.
And so in this stretch, so Ben, if you wouldn't mind going back to the previous map, so I think I follow this one. If it's in green there, it's just gonna be the artwork panels that are replaced. If it's in blue,
So there's no
everything.
panels there in that green, the
Why
operative.
are we saying
level.
we can add artwork to the new sidewalk panels on this graphic?
I don't know, because
To
the
green.
opera didn't let us put anything in there.
Yeah. You see the note on the,
Yeah.
that's pointing to the green?
Yeah,
Is
the
that-
current sidewalks and good. We can add,
There's no artwork, no coloring. This is just gonna be regular sidewalk. That will be
I think we were at one point talking about, should we replace it with stamped concrete or colored, but this is just for
Okay, so on this one, everything in blue is the one that's getting touched on this slide. Everything there, those whole big runs are gonna get torn out and replaced. And then if you go to the next map, only that little section in blue is getting touched,
there's no blue on the west side is what we're saying.
or even on that big long run on the east side
Oh,
that's
yeah.
got like 4 crappy panels in it.
Uh-huh.
all the panels that have the inlay will be replaced on the west side of Buxton Street and on the east side of Buxton Street. It just so happens that that sidewalk where we put inlays from that, pretty much the alleyway to Ashland is in bad shape, so while we're there, we might as well replace it and have a nice sidewalk.
Why I'm confused, and I know part of this is, I don't mean to be self-serving, because I spent a lot of time on the corner of Buxton and Boston at Lighthouse, but that sidewalk's in awful shape, which has been made worse. It doesn't seem like it's better off than the stuff in blue. I'm just trying to understand our metric for.
Which sidewalk are you talking about? Sorry.
That big green section on the east side there.
This side.
Right here.
That sidewalk is pretty bad.
Well, that's, I'm just trying to understand our metric for who gets all the way fixed and who gets sort of fixed.
What we're saying is, and we can make changes and add to, but I think what we're saying is that wasn't sinking sidewalk, whereas the other one was sinking and creating a trap.
But it is pretty bad.
Maybe I'm just being frustrated about it, but when we came up, I thought we talked about, like, now we're gonna just create a patchwork sidewalk leading into the square that looks awful, and if we already have a crew out there, why are we gonna contribute to that? I mean, I
That would be direction to do it both ways.
yeah, I'd be curious, you know, like, if we've already got everybody out there, like, the whole point was to make it look good coming into the square, our beautiful square that's functioning and walking perfectly, and to have patchwork sidewalk.
And I'm gonna turn to Akilis really quick here. I believe let me talk first about to the west side. I believe that we have a concern here because it goes up against, there's a topography change.
Yeah, so there's multiple, sorry, I'm coming back from vacation trying to remember what's going on. So on the west side, the dotted red lines that you're seeing is primarily retaining wall, or there is curb and gutter that is impacted, which to remove them will be significantly expensive. And at this time, you'll need to do more than just replacing, you'll need engineering drawing and everything that's implicated there. So the west side, the condition.
You can't just cut out the center panels on the west side. You can't leave the curb, concrete cut behind the curb, and
it'll either start crumbling, it'll impact the retaining wall, or the curb, the parking lot itself will start crumbling. It's not, we are more concerned about all of that, that's in it.
So
going back to the east side, we could replace that, and if the contractor was willing to carry their per lineal foot.
yeah, I mean, I just want this to look good, and if there's engineering concern on the retaining wall side, I get that, I guess. I don't want to fix a mess with.
Another mess.
Yeah.
I know
Essentially.
Yeah.
The east side was in comparatively better shape, the green one that's showing up. I know the west side had some concerns, but the east side, you remember?
Yes, if we could replace the whole thing, the cost will go up considerably. But as we walked it, that sidewalk was in a lot better shape than the sidewalk in front of the county administration building. And it was in better shape than the sidewalk from the alleyway.
Is it in better shape than we found it when we started this project?
In the same shape as what we found it when we started the project with those inlays.
I think what we though.
We actually,
we all
the inlays provide,
agree that
caused
we
the
want
trip
it
hazard, not what the sidewalk were did.
I understand.
I think we could add this section if the contractor is willing to keep the per lineal foot. This one would become challenging and require additional engineering.
Yeah.
Council be inclined to do that.
That would be my preference. One person is like, if we're gonna fix this thing, we're being forced to fix it, let's fix it right and make it look good up to our square, where we're trying to encourage businesses to, you know, invest money, stick around, like the one we talked to earlier today. Obviously, theirs is on the side with the engineering that we can't quite tackle right now, but like, it would be nice if it all looked good coming up and down and into the square.
I mean, if I'm completely honest, if you could go back to the other slide, Ben, where it shows the county. So that sidewalk in front of the county building wasn't the best sidewalk to begin with.
It was already low.
There were sagging spots, there were cracks, it was already failing. I don't see why we are paying to replace that huge section. I think
it gets tough because
So.
it was, we made the mess and now we have
Part
to.
of it, I understand taking out our squares and replacing those.
Yeah.
But I don't think we are liable for that entire sidewalk. I don't. I know what that sidewalk was like before we put those inlays in because I walk it a lot. And it was not the best.
The problem is we can't replace the inlaid panels unless we replace them in a substandard sunken manner and create a hazard or perpetuate the hazard that's already existing. Cause we couldn't put it up to the top level, cause then you would create a trip hazard going on the path of the walking path either direction. So you either have to sink it down and make it standard, or you have to bring it up, and if you're gonna bring it up, you have to bring it off.
Right.
So what do we
Christina?
have for I guess this would be for Doug. So reading through that contract, Christina, I spent a Saturday reading through that contract. And the contract, we awarded it in January 2023 and awarded it to Group Creative, I believe. And subsequently, the contractor who this was given to was arrested in February for his third substance abuse charge of we're not talking about marijuana. And the contractor also doesn't hold a state of Iowa contractor's license. So where's the liability for Group Creative that they didn't do their due diligence in vetting the candidate they hired?
I think that's probably a better question in the closed session.
Okay. Okay, we'll tackle that on with Doug, that I think maybe we need to have a conversation about that.
I go back to a question then. Is that within our right of way, that sidewalk, and that's our responsibility?
I believe it is within our right of way.
And because the court case, Bankers Trust versus City of Des Moines, we are responsible.
So to answer, like Ben said, that is in the public right of way. Our city code requires any sidewalk in the public right of way is the property owner's maintenance and responsibility.
It's the liability that you're talking about in that case, which is different than the maintenance.
Right.
So part of the challenge that we're getting at, Armstrong, for yours is like, and then Christina, yeah, that sidewalk sucks, but it's all like this, right? And we're claiming that we're taking out these panels because they're a tripping hazard. But if you've got concrete panels that are already doing this and you go to put one in perfectly at grade, you recreate another tripping hazard right there. So not only does it look bad, but it's, you know, it's gonna create the same problem you're trying to fix. And so, you know, you can try to like feather your way in and only take like one, like maybe this one's good and save it here and there, but
And that's where I go, why, if we already know the sidewalks suck, why did we do nothing ahead of time? Like,
I think this is a lesson learned. This was not a project managed by our Public Works Department, and all future projects will be managed.
like, I guess my thought would be with what you just brought up. My thought would be to table it, have that closed session to figure out.
I don't really wanna table it though, because
running out of time.
we are running out of time and this is gonna have to get into next year's schedule, because if somebody trips between now and when we get this fixed, we are on the hook. Now this conversation has happened and it's important that we identify how we're gonna correct it and not table it. I think from a legality standpoint, we can ask our attorneys to go after that, cause I think there is
I think
some
there's
cost
wording in
there.
that contract
That
needs to
maybe
be
they could
evaluated.
get that cost, because essentially, yes, nobody wants to spend this much money, but we gotta do it and we gotta make it right.
What is the project timeline?
From talking to the contractors, this will be able to get done this season.
Oh, this season
That's-
still?
That was my understanding. is
Nice.
We should not delay this and get it done so that, yeah, to your point.
Costs will only go up come January.
Well, yeah, but then we go through a whole winter without those extended tripping hazards in place.
Yes. And Caleb, you said that Construction Services of Iowa is local, like here in Indianola?
Yeah, that's don't know if you're familiar with Chauncey Cox.
Okay.
It's Chauncey Cox and Brandon Hilton's new venture.
First question.
Yeah. Cause
So-
I asked that clarification with Ben today, since the bids are so close within $27. Would we have the option, And Jackie clarified that under $100, we could elect to go with the local. Gibson Concrete Services of Iowa wasn't local, but they are local, so.
At this point, Vice is much larger, bigger crews, more established, correct? Even though Chauncey's been around doing this in various forms for years.
You say Brandon Hilton is his partner?
Yeah, Brandon Hilton.
Is there wisdom in going with Vice or is staff comfortable with either one?
I have no preference on either which way.
Maybe the question might be if the council does want to add the east side green area and the lower block, if Concrete Services of Iowa is willing to hold their per lineal price so that we can add that portion into it. And if they're not, then revert to Vice or that type of thing.
Sound like a good plan.
That's great.
I have one more question, and this might be a closed session thing, so Doug, yell at me if I need to, but like, so that discussion about repercussions, I mean, is this something that we can talk with Hometown Pride about, like if they have funding to contribute that committee, or is this just all gonna fall on us, or how do we ask that question?
It's gonna fall on us.
That would have to be determined. Because if that committee had funding saved for other projects, to help fix this mess, that's something we can ask.
Strategy and then decide.
Okay, thank you. I'm quiet now.
Mayor, are you looking for?
I think we're looking for some direction, so I think,
Well, he says, or impossible action.
Possible action, the council could make a motion to.
I would make a motion that we give the contract to Concrete Services of Iowa, providing they maintain the linear foot portion on anything we decide to add. If they don't, then we go with Vice Construction if they do the same.
And the portion that we would add is the green section on the east side of Buxton between Boston and Ashland.
Well, and there may be something else that pops up that we need to do too, so I'm just saying, if they maintain their per linear foot for whatever we choose to make them do, then.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that if it exceeds $25,000, my spending authority that in the direction to board appropriate.
That's.
Can I add one more thing? There may be additional cost if it exceeds $25,000 for a performance bond. The state code requires performance bond, anything above $25,000. So there may be another $1,000 or so addition.
thank you.
And you're saying we cannot do anything with the west side because of the retaining wall?
I think we would need to look at that as a separate project and have it engineered and because of the retaining walls and everything else that and
But they
just do
will
it at.
still be able to pull all of those inlays out on that
Replace
side
those
and at
panels.
least fix that, so it's not.
Could you go back to that slide that shows the administration building, please? There's that one little section on the west side, southwest side, where it says we're not gonna replace it because it's in fair shape.
Oh, that little tiny green speck.
Yeah, can we add that back? Add that into.
That back in there. Done.
I do believe that was the direction we gave, was to replace it all.
Talking about right here.
If we could, so it looked consistent, and then I do see, so, I mean, is there a reason those I'm sorry, I know we wanna get this motion, but that ADA ramp, if it's being replaced next year, is there a reason it can't be added into this?
Which one are you?
Part of the bid project.
Okay, okay.
So the motion is to, you have the motion, Jackie?
Yeah, and we need, I guess we need a second.
Second that motion.
Okay, so Jackie's got our motion, and we have a second. Is there any other question?
How are we paying for it?
It comes from reserves and it would be added to our budget.
We can speak in the closed session about.
We can
Not
try
today,
to,
but we need to put one on the agenda that would be in accordance.
we
Can
can
we
go
get
with,
that on the next?
yeah, I'd really like us to, I mean, Doug, I'd really ask you to dig into it deep here, because I feel like it is a lesson learned, but I think it is also, we were blindly following and hoping that this was gonna be okay, but as Ron said, it's funny when a grant costs us more money. And do we have an update on when the next
We need a
sculptures are
vote.
coming? I'm sorry, real quick on this, I'm still on Wonder Buxton, update on sculptures. Yeah, Doug? Do you know?
Probably just clean up this boat.
Yeah. It's the last thing on
I
my.
know that they are in process and they're gonna be.
If we could just have Doug, if you could just send us a timeline on that, the sculptures, because I know Hometown Pride needs to stay under us through the continued of this, so just to give us an idea and a deadline. Okay, all right, now we can vote. If we'll see if this pulls up for you.
Mine was someone not wanting to unfreeze for me, but it didn't pull up anything.
Would you like me to record it for you?
Yeah, yes.
The motion passed 4-1 with one abstaining. And then I sent Ben a message today asking just for a couple infrastructure updates, so if you wanna go over those with Hillcrest, Buxton, K Street. We've got a lot we're trying to wrap up for the winter.
Okay,
Hi Caleb.
hello. Your questions.
Your face, is it gonna be bad news or good news? Which one should we start with? Let's start with Hillcrest.
East Hillcrest, they started working on the last phase for these. They started breaking that out today. 4A is, the main line is open for 3 businesses to access their businesses.
When is 4A intersection of North 9th and Hillcrest going
They
to open?
poured it today, so we got cure time. They got cure time 7 days.
So 1.5 weeks or so. There's not just cure time, but there's also grade work. There's also another concrete work.
I think that's all very understandable, but what I'm asking here is, we have communicated to the public 3 different deadlines, and it's on go to our website, it's on there. The last one came from Aaron on October 4th, said 2 weeks, that was Friday, we're past Friday. We've got people who have a snow fence covering their whole yard because their yard is being torn up by people driving through. The intersection needs to open ASAP. It is causing continual hazards with people on the trail, cars coming off. And it's very frustrating to hear another 7 days now, because they had one panel left to pour and they didn't come out and pour it until today. And that's the panel on the southwest side of North 9. And again, I watch it every single day, so I know. But it is very, very frustrating, and the school district is very frustrated with the lack of communication. And they're frustrated because I keep getting deadlines from you all that we're not meeting.
I think we probably then need to go back and only communicate the deadlines that are at the end of the contract and not give these status reports and communicate them to the public. I think that's our issue, is that we're communicating optimistic views instead of the contractual.
We're a month off of the 4A opening. We're gonna be a month off.
So the 4A was technically not the contractor's fault. It's Mid-American Energy had to dig up the utilities that was reinstalled.
Why did we not have them on, why weren't we on their schedule? We continue to hear it's a lot of Mid-American.
Well, here,
Are we not on their schedule, or are we just calling them when we're ready and
No.
delayed?
sorry.
And I'm sorry, we don't understand the process, so we're just asking for clarification.
So on the Mid-American gas line, Mid-American's contractor came out to relocate it ahead of time, like we had asked them to, well in advance. They relocated it. They didn't relocate it properly. They relocated about half of it like they were supposed to, and so we had to wait another 2 weeks for them to come
When
out.
did we
And
catch it? Did we not catch it same day that they were relocating?
no, we did not catch it because we were working on another area.
Which I think we'll have a conversation about project management and all that move, but that's not for you guys,
And
but
then we had a fiber optic line.
through IMU.
No, through Lumen, which is Verizon. Where it had to be moved over. We could finish the project. This all put us several weeks behind, which put the concrete subcontractor, he's not gonna sit there and wait for 3 weeks and pay his guys for not doing
Why
any
did
work.
they pour that panel last Friday with the rest of
They were off doing another project.
they came and they poured the street, but they just left that last
They
panel.
have a paving crew and then they have their handwork crews. They have.
I hope that we, Aaron, I hope we can get a communication out. I hope that as a city, what the residents of Indianola are not seeing, they think it's the city of Indianola employees doing this work, right? They don't see it as our contractors falling short. They see it as we are falling short. And we continue to give deadlines publicly. 4A was end of September, then it was October 19th, and now we're another week out. And I've got people driving through people's yards because they're frustrated. And if you go up there, it's just full of trash. Tell them to move their construction staging area to somewhere else. Because there's no reason when you had to open one lane all summer and all of a sudden we say, oh, we're gonna close that lane because it's safer for the crews. Well, it's sure not safer for the residents walking on the trail every day. And it's not safer when I see a car miss my husband by about 2 minutes at 6:37 in the morning. It's not safe. It's continuing to be a problem and I can't understand why we continue to miss the deadline we put out. And I wouldn't tell a deadline if I wasn't given it, but I was given those deadlines. And I'm sorry to rag on you because it's not, again, not you're doing the work, but that's what the people think.
It was our best plan. Things came,
So what happens if we're not open on Thanksgiving to the tree farm?
we will,
You say we will be, but what happens if we're not?
then we put up a detour sign.
That's
Tell-
not
that goes them
acceptable.
around. But if everything goes as planned, we have a 2-week cushion with our plan at the end of it.
Well, we're a month out on 4A, so 2 weeks is not enough.
This is the small section.
How many days does a
It's supposed to be
contractor
a small
have?
section too.
How many days does a contractor have
It's
left?
230 days.
So the contract is 260 out. 260.
60 working days left.
60 left.
Yes.
60.
And I think
project-
it's just,
this
it's been a long time coming, right?
But the mainline paving on this project wasn't supposed to be done until 2025.
I understand that,
We are,
but
we are
again,
gonna be ahead of,
we
we are gonna
put
be
out an
ahead of schedule.
expectation, Caleb, this
Yeah.
spring, that 4A would be open end of September. So if we're putting the expectation, and then we failed to communicate prior to end of September, we communicated October 4th, I believe.
Mhm.
So again, and I know it's not the biggest forest fire we're fighting here,
No.
but it is the biggest forest fire to Wanda Thompson on the corner, whose yard is getting destroyed, and she is fearful that somebody's gonna hit her house, cause now they're driving between her flagpoles and her house. That's not acceptable. It's not acceptable that they're just throwing junk in staging and using our brand new concrete as a staging area. It's just not acceptable. I'm sorry, but the frustration to hear another 7 days, open the intersection. It is having a direct impact on our school district. It's having an impact on the residents. Those residents haven't been able to access their main entrance to their neighborhood since August, the day before, we did it the Friday before school started. Not good timing either.
No,
It just wasn't. The whole intersection, we
Yes.
probably should have done in our last phase. Lessons learned. But I guess anybody else have any questions on Hillcrest? I think I made it pretty clear on how I feel on
Well,
Hillcrest.
you've got to let the concrete cure. It's been poured, you gotta let it cure at proper time, otherwise.
I get it, but where's our communication, Steve?
Well, Mayor, I think that, I disagree with some of the things you've been bringing up, but I think the issue here is too, we keep forgetting, and I know I was joking a little bit earlier in the meeting about Mid-American Energy, but they are continually a problem if you look at the entire Hillcrest project and what
We don't always get to be the scapegoat though. Here.
Well, they are in this particular case for a lot of things. Now, they may not be for everything, but they are for a lot of things in this particular case. If they relocated and their contractor did not locate in the proper area, we are 2 weeks or 3 weeks behind, and I get all of those things. But I think I agree with what Ben says, that we probably just need to look at what the absolute maximum is on our projects here and don't set expectations that, you know, we can't meet because there's certain things that happen. I mean, if weather had come up, then we'd be in the middle of
Can't
something.
use weather for this excuse, so. It has been no, I'm just saying, it's been beautiful weather, so
I
I get
understand
it,
that,
things
but-
happen, and that's why I'm concerned that we are not going to have this ready by Thanksgiving. We keep making that promise, and you know, oh, I'm optimistic. We were also optimistic we were gonna open at the end of September. We didn't. We were optimistic we'd open October 19th. We didn't.
We do not have the last section, we do not have any utility conflicts at all with our one crossing.
Is there any potential conflict?
No potential conflict.
And how can we improve our relationship with Mid-American? I think that's what we we'll.
I think you're asking for an unsolvable
Yeah.
fix there. I
Yeah,
guess I would
it's
just,
unsolvable.
I would just say, if you don't mind me.
Yeah, this probably, I think on Hillcrest, okay, we'll move on. Let's
No.
talk about Buxton maybe.
No, I would just say again, I think on Hillcrest, like, you know, we have a communication issue, we have an expectation issue. I would echo what Richardson said, that like, Mid-American is not a problem that anybody's gonna solve. And every time in a schedule like that, you have one miss, even if you're off a day, you throw off contractors who are accountable to other projects. And so it creates that cascading effect. So I'm in complete agreement with you that I think we have a communication and
expectation
issue. I'm not sure that this is how where we're supposed to do it, but.
No, I apologize. It's
I-
during the seven more days. And
I just found out that you're why my Verizon didn't work for a day in town, right?
no, that's CenturyLink. It's Lumen always cutting our feeders, right?
I was just excited to finally understand why that happened.
It happens. We
No.
take credit for the entire state Verizon outage.
I think you're hearing the urgency in.
How can we just get the intersection open? That is the biggest concern that I've been screaming about since the
Gotta
end
wet
of
the
September.
concrete cure.
Or to
Cure. We'll take,
Says it cures
we
and.
can take it, we can get it, we can break a cylinder at 3 days and see what the strength is. I mean, they take an extra
Well, we
cylinder
allowed
for
it
a
one
reason.
lane
We
all
can do
summer,
a
that's
3 day
why I
break,
know.
see if we
Just got
can
it.
get on it.
So on
Depends on your concrete.
regarding Buxton and 92, I'm not sure what our contracted end date is on that. If we go by what's.
We got a motion on the floor here, right?
No, we're giving up.
No, but I
we're
did
doing
put in a
infrastructure
request to
update.
talk and I have not.
I can't see any of that. Okay, Hillcrest, you wanna talk about Hillcrest? Go ahead, Christina.
Okay, so I totally get your frustration. Honestly, my biggest concern isn't the fact that we aren't open yet. It's that we have trash concrete piled up or debris piled up on brand new concrete. We have people driving through a person's private property, destroying her property. We have citizens that are, in danger.
Yep.
In these situations. Those are my biggest concerns with this whole situation. And for me, I don't care what the excuse is, it's just not acceptable.
I wish I could control people's behavior and them following the law. Whether the road was closed or not and people drove through someone's yard, they are breaking the law. I wish we could control that. I mean, unfortunately, that is an outcome of construction, that people drive around barricades. Unfortunately, they are driving so far around the barricades that they're driving through people's yards. I feel for those people. But we have put snow fence up to try to keep people out.
The contractor put the fence.
It's all the way to
The
her house
contractor
now.
put up the fence.
She's routed it all the way to her house and she went and bought her own, I believe.
Yeah.
So
my
on that
second-
though, I'm
Which
sorry,
there's
just
only-
real quick on that intersection though, on that. It was open all summer with one lane. Why can't we open the one lane that's ready now?
It was open all summer, full lane, and then we got to a point where we opened it. We didn't open it full lane because of the semi traffic. We wanted to keep them out of
But
the
do you really-
residential areas. Because the semis will, once they figure out there is a shortcut that they can take instead of going down Iowa to 14th, they will take it, and which we will be having semi traffic running through residential neighborhoods with their kids playing and coming home from school.
So when
We
we're
actually,
just
we
one
did
more
put a
week,
lot
right?
of serious thought into this.
Next Monday, that's one more week.
I was
I'm
told,
sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
7 working days is what we expecting.
Thank you, Christina. Question to you.
Talking
That's
stick.
next Wednesday. Yeah.
It's more of a legal question. So does the city bear any liability in the that something were to be damaged on that person's property?
control criminal conduct.
Secondly, how do we not have any recourse to go back against Mid-American? I understand that, they're a utility, but if they hired a third-party contractor, that third-party contractor should have some kind of liability insurance when contracting for Mid-American. So why are we not able to go back against them for that?
Complicated problem. But I'm telling you right now, that we're not gonna be able to do that.
Not even against their contractor who messed up and put it in the wrong place? That's why they get away with it.
The city doesn't have a
Because
contract with
we're,
Mid-American.
no one
Mid-American has-
proceeds.
Mid-American has a utility franchise. And so what you're doing when you move the streets, you have to move utilities, is you're asking. So active negligence, yeah, they kill somebody, or they hurt somebody. They screw up, that's their screw up. Now, we can always look into it, but I'm going to tell you that it's probably not something we're dealing with. It's always a problem. If you work, we work with cities all over the state. It's always a problem when you have.
Is it really, did you have a lot of problems in Oskaloosa, AP? I mean, I thought that when you came in, you said you had a great relationship. Is it because they service much more and we have IMU? Because when I talk to folks, my peers in Norwalk and Carlisle, they don't have these problems. They also don't have these problems with the DOT either. And what I'm learning is there's different zones, right?
Yes.
And it's not consistent the way that it's carried out in each zone. So I'm just asking, again, I think that who do we need to call Mid-American to build a better relationship here and get on the same path? I feel like if other cities have figured out, we can figure it out. And
So back in
and
my
it's probably
pre-
on us on a lobbying standpoint, building those, so.
So in my previous city, Mid-American was doing a great service just because they were not as stressed out as this region. This region is completely different from the region around Oskaloosa, Ottumwa, Pella area, because they don't have as many cities, as many staff members. In this region, I know they are extremely stressed out. I don't know about Norwalk, but I've spoke to my peers in Clive, Johnston, I'm sorry, is it Grinnell, I think. So I spoke to other peers and they have the similar problems that we have. I know city of Des Moines may not have that problem, but I've spoke to other public
Or
works.
maybe we could talk to our peers here in Warren County and build those relationships like on your side and over there, because if they're able to get it done really easily and have a better process, let's just figure out what that process is, because last thing I wanna do is be mean to you guys. It's not you guys. You're not the reason it's delayed. It's just.
So are we actually delayed or are we still within our contract?
We
So
are-
this is the whole issue, like, can I just
No,
finish?
yeah,
Could you keep
yes.
saying sorry and keep interrupting everybody, and I know you're super passionate and fired up, and I'm on your team, I promise. Promise. But the problem with even going back against Mid-American is we're not outside our contract, there's no liquidated damages, so technically they haven't done anything wrong.
We were actually.
What we've done is done a poor job of communicating reasonable expectations and following through on communication as things have changed. That's all.
Yes.
Right? And I get citizens are upset. It is what it is. We're still in the contract that we all agreed to and the dates that we all should have known this could take this long. Right?
I think our communication effort was exemplary. I think what we communicated was optimistic, and we haven't met those.
Yeah.
And we need to be better at providing more realistic timelines to communicate going forward, following the same methodology that we've communicated in the past. Aaron's done a great job at that.
And even if we maybe agree to disagree, I'm not sure that we're gonna browbeat that point to a better spot of fixing it in this venue right here, nor is it fair to those guys who are technically still within the contract.
Exactly. The positive things in this is that we've had a good construction season. We have worked through Hillcrest and it's gonna be done this year instead of an extra year. We're gonna have Buxton done this year, although the vertical will come later in the year. K Street project was done in 1 year instead of 2 years. And while there is a lot of construction going on all at once, we're at the point where the light is at the end of the tunnel. And we just need to be patient and work together to get through this. And when we do, we're going to have a much better Hillcrest that leads to our industrial area, a much better 92 and a much better connection all the way out on K Street. So it's important to note that each project is unique, each project has unique contractors, but the fact is our staff is doing the very best that they can. They're very much in support of them. I think that while there are areas for improvement, I think we need to recognize that as a community, we need to be more patient and more kind and more respectful, not driving through people's yards illegally. And we need to respect that a construction site is a construction site. And in all reality, we could have just shut down all of Hillcrest the entire time. The reason we phased it and broken it up is to supply good access to the businesses and the homeowners that are out there. And the contractor has jumped through hoops each and every phase to make it so that it's an acceptable and usable route for the traffic that we have out there, and it was in their own self-interest to do so because they are also impacted by this. They are not the enemy either. And we just need to be kind and respectful one to another to get through this construction.
I agree with you on that part. I like that bit.
And I think Ben and I, we discussed this last week too, is looking at project management on a day-to-day, standpoint in our pre-construction setting. Our expectations, trash laying around in piles isn't acceptable, right? And so we'll set those in pre-construction and we'll talk about that in the project management side. And do you guys have anything to say on Hillcrest?
No.
I gotta remember that I gotta listen more, Josh.
That's good for you.
Not at all. All right. The next one, Buxton and
Highway.
2.
The contractor was out there to replace the sidewalk today on the northeast corner.
Nice. Wait,
Um,
northeast corner? I thought it was the southwest.
they had to replace the northeast corner as well. That one, they just hadn't replaced, popped it out yet. But that's the one that was all painted with pink dots. Every pink dot was a panel that they had to repair or replace. The southwest corner, they cannot complete that until they redo the footing for the stoplight. Footing is 2 inches too low that they poured, so they're gonna have to pull that out and put a new footing in. Then
Is
they
that why
can,
those things were there on the sidewalk, Dave, that I pointed out to you?
Yeah.
That it would eventually moved because they were obstructing the sidewalk that people were walking on. I saw someone from Snyder the next day, so thank you, Dave.
so, they're gonna be out tomorrow, they said, to tear out the footing and to start repouring a new footing. As soon as the new footing is poured, they said they would for that sidewalk.
Will they remove the cones while they do the sidewalk work?
That I do not know.
Could we ask that question?
We could ask that question.
I think the business owner and
Mhm.
the homeowner would really appreciate not having cones run over constant, and I think we all would, right? It's-
Yes.
Nobody wants
No. it's
that.
a-
Our
it's
public
a headache.
safety has to go and pick them up when it gets going. So if the road work is done, if somebody could just ask, could you remove the cones
We can have
on the
that-
road?
We can have that conversation.
I think that would make a lot of people happy. And that's a simple one. I do believe though, but I'm not sure. I never saw a different contract, but they are past the contracted working days. According to the contract I signed on May 9th. I never saw an updated contract.
So the most recent payout that and again, I'm returning up, I think we are standing at 56.7% of the working days. For the Bucks.
56, they broke ground on that August 5th.
Yes, and it's got, I can't remember the exact.
It should be, if we delayed it, the latest start date should have been July 8th per the contract. And they didn't start till August 5th, so
To July
we
8th.
never saw a new updated contract that I signed. So that would put them past working days. If we're going off of the August 5th on working days, they're on day 54. So they would have 6 days left.
The July 8th starting date was the DOT said that you have this small amount of time.
Yeah.
We're not gonna allow you to be working during RAGBRAI or the balloon festival. There were no lane shift allowed on the highway.
But we should have brought back a
So
different amendment then.
We brought back, moved the date back.
So that's not a working day. You can't count it as a working day if you can't work during RAGBRAI. So those
understand.
days aren't counted, so it's not necessarily the calendar day. And I think next meeting, we have a partial pay application and we always summarize the working days in that letter. So we'll go into more depth.
I hope
in
we can
that-
have it
in
done
that
so
letter.
we can release that payment as well too.
Yes.
Yes, that is our goal, if it could be done and we would release the last payment. Are they doing the vertical work too?
They will, the poles are
Oh.
custom. And so
we're
the
gonna deal
poles
with
won't
this
be done
again.
until January.
Hope not.
And then they'll come in and set the set the poles and the.
Will they have to put cones in the road for another 90 days
That'll be one corner at a time.
with just that? Okay.
Be small localized areas that they'll have to work.
And they've done some very big projects
Yes, they have.
successfully.
Mhm.
I just don't know if this
We're
one's
working with them on several projects right now.
K Street.
K Street, good news is they've removed the lane shift on the highway today or this afternoon.
They're doing great work.
All the concrete work has been poured. The striping on the concrete's been done. I don't wanna say for sure that rumple strips have been put on the shoulder, but I do know the contractor, when I was out there, was working on the southbound side. I don't want to speak without knowing for sure if they did the northbound side, but they were out there doing the rumple strips, so that would leave us. Signage has been installed, that would leave us possibly the north side of rumple strips. And some riprap work that we gotta do, Vanderpool has to come in and do.
I don't need a date on that, I guess, but maybe just to understand, do we know when that one is supposed to be like on the contracted working day? That's all I need to know.
We're ahead of schedule.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, that one I feel like has been going around the clock.
I did have a comment from one of the vocal neighbors that was there at all of our meetings, thanking us profusely for eliminating the dust and everything else out there, and thanks us for going that direction.
And another positive change order, like 35,000, so great work. All on that.
Thanks for getting the cone from my yard.
Thought was checking something out in the area and
It got drugged down. I sent him a
I
picture.
saw it
and I know
sitting
you
there
make
and
cones,
so I
don't
picked
live
it
in
up.
your front yard.
returned it to where it belonged.
Thank you.
Any other projects?
Can
You want to
go
Clinton
back to
project?
Hillcrest for just a second, at the corner of North Fourth, and Hillcrest, there's a section of sidewalk that's not been poured where that retention pond is. Do we have any idea when that's gonna get done as well? That's, I'm assuming still part of the project.
No, that's not part of
That's
this.
part of this project. That's actually,
That's what?
that is an arrangement with the property owner that they're responsible for loading that section of sidewalk.
Okay,
So 360 group.
okay.
So it's not part of this construction project, ongoing construction project.
So it was not part of the overall Hillcrest project?
No, it was part of the site plan that was approved for that, and the contractors, the developer, for the
So
site
bottom
plan.
line is, do we know, are they just delaying that as long as they can, or are we gonna be?
We can go back to that property owner and also back to Charlie to make sure that we have the understanding that's correct of when they're gonna do that and sure that that moves.
Well, okay, Charlie, we can blame Charlie here, but he did tell me before he left that he'd been in contact with them and they were supposed to be working on that before the end of the year, so. But, just curious.
Are you talking the one with the farm?
No, I'm talking right at North Fourth Street, so you turn
Yeah.
right on Hillcrest off the highway, and it's the
Car wash.
first street.
Mhm.
There's
East of the car wash,
it's on the north side of the street, not the south side.
Oh, yeah, okay.
east of the car wash there.
Okay.
That is that property owner's responsibility to install the trail.
I've had some folks ask me when that's gonna be completed, because they still have to walk across, especially if they're walking or whatever they're doing, the mud and everything else, and so that's a concern.
I've had multiple people ask me as well.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
I've received the package that Charlie left. I think I picked it up from Bill's office right before I left vacation. So that's something we plan to follow up with the
Thank you.
Weird section right there.
It is.
And there wasn't any, okay, never mind, that's for another. Is there any other infrastructure updates while we have our two professionals? And I wanna thank
We
you guys
still
for
have-
listening to my frustration, and I'm apologize because I
Nope.
know that you're doing the best you can.
We still have one more larger project if you want to ask about that one as well.
Oh, one more,
Yeah.
well, I think that one had a positive change order too, so.
We did have a
West
positive,
Clinton?
the West Clinton project.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have completed the main line paving on it, so the road has been paved.
Great.
So what they have left is they have to lower a sewer manhole. Pave the sidewalk, seed, do a little backfill grading work. And there will be a small change order on that one because I approved a little bit more extra sidewalk, so we didn't end up with another Buxton issue.
Oh no, should have given us back all that money.
There we are.
Right?
It's a very.
You'll be all right with that
It's a
one.
very small change order, so
Yeah,
you can Steve, if you want to chew on a pound of flesh, I will give it to you right now.
I'm fine, I'm fine.
All right.
Anything to make it better, as long as they make things better, usually those are the keys.
Any other updates?
I have a question about East Franklin. Have the traffic signs been picked up yet?
Yes.
Yes, the only thing I think that's left is a handful of
They got 'em all.
channelizers. Did they
They're
pick them up
gone.
today? I
It's all
didn't make it
gone.
out there this afternoon.
I actually thought it was you, Caleb. I was gonna
No.
credit you.
Nope, I
So
did
you're
not
like,
pick
oh,
them
the
up.
mayor's gonna ask me why these 3 cones are left here. No,
No,
they're all gone.
Thank you.
so yeah, that project is completed other than some seeding in which the contractor was out there working today on seeding. I just don't want to say they got it complete. And it will be put on we'll put a little retention hold on that in case we don't get to seed the pot because we're outside a seeding window.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We really do appreciate you. Now I feel like I'm just gonna have to keep telling that over and over. Okay. Can I get a motion to enter into closed session in accordance with Iowa Code Section 21.51I to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose employment, hire, and performance or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless or irreparable injury to the individual's reputation in that individual requested closed session. All right, we can go. And then we'll take a quick 5-minute break.
Where y'all go?
I did read it up, you sent it to me.
Yeah, if you haven't taken a look.
Just flew out of your pocket.
Oh, we just assumed everybody was like, yep, we're done, we're going.